Hello, hello, and welcome everyone. This week we are talking about successfully sourcing your social media. And we are Magnet Marketers. We're a weekly blabcast that happens every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are your host here. I am Jessica Phillips with Now Marketing Group and the Relationship Marketing System. We are a digital relationship marketing agency that focuses on growing that repeat referral business with your ideal audience. And my awesome co-host is Mike Gingrich. He is president of the web agency Digital Hill and also co-founder of TabSite and the host of the Halftime Mike podcast, where he lives and breathes by the philosophy of always being uncommon and adding value in all that you do. So this week, welcome, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing well and excited to be here and welcoming people in. Chef Michael, Alaska Tracy, man, we got him coming in from all over.
Yay! Hello, Alaska Tracy. Loved being on your blabcast last week, and seeing some familiar faces in here. It's a good way to start off the blab. So this week, talking about successfully sourcing your social media. So this can mean lots of different things. It can mean sourcing social media for one business. It can mean sourcing bits and pieces of it. We're going to dive into what it means to source your social media, some best practices when doing it, and some questions you need to ask before you decide on who to source it to and how to source it. So just some things you need to think about overall as you have to go through that process, because it's not something to take lightly.
Absolutely. Yes. Sure. Yes. I think that's one of the keys to start off with is that you are, with your social media, that's a key extension of your brand, just because with social media, it's social. And so that's going to represent you. There's going to be interaction. There's going to be representation on the networks where communication is critical, vital, and happening.
Exactly. So you are allowing someone to digitally answer the phone for your business and answer questions and have this complete conversation both ways to your audience. So it is not something to be taken lightly. That is usually the first thing that we explain to anyone that brings up the topic about, deciding what to do about social media. One, it's not if you should do it, it's how you should do it. That's the first key. You need to be doing social media and not just setting up the profile and leaving it blank. You need to be actively engaged on social media in order to compete in today's market, because people are looking there. They're looking, like you said, it's your brand's voice online to find out who you are, what sets you apart, and how they can grow a relationship with you. So when you know this and you're looking to see if you can keep it in-house or if you need to source it out, the key is knowing that you need to source it to a reliable person that not just can understand how to use social media, but can actively do it for your brand.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, businesses, you have to make all kinds of decisions. So you need to decide, since social media has become a mainstream marketing tool that businesses, really need to be taking a look at and using. How are you going to do that, and what's your team's capacity to do that? So there's multiple ways to do that, and you need to figure out. It is good for a business to have some in-house wanting to be active on social media. It's always a cautionary tale when someone says, no, we just want you to take care of it, because that means they might not really have bought in, and you have to be ready to buy in and be ready to participate. But we understand you're busy. We understand you may not be hiring someone in-house to do a lot of this. So basically you can do some sourcing of that, but there needs to be that handshake, that collaboration that takes place, and what you can do, what's going to be how someone else can be an extension of your business and what you're going to do.
So the number one thing that I'm hearing you say is that it's going to take communication ongoing. It's not a hire and hand off. It is an ongoing collaborative approach. So if you know that going into it, which it makes sense, right? I mean, social media is that extension of your business. So somebody has to be directly communicating with your business in order to know what's happening, in order to get the real-time post of what's going on in the business, the birthdays, the anniversaries, the what's new. Even as something as simple as I've seen brands that have sourced out social media to a company, and it looked like a hands-off approach. Something as simple as knowing what the weather and the conditions in that surrounding county are like, where I've seen posts go up like, hey, it's a bright sunny day today here. How are you enjoying the sunshine this, springtime? And in this community, it's raining and miserable, but because there's that disconnect and that non-communicative, ongoing relationship going on, you can tell that they're not actively doing it themselves. So the key is to be as much in tune with that brand and in your audience as you can be online. So communication ongoing is key. So you have to have someone in your company before you source it out that is going to hold that role of being that main point of contact for whomever you're sourcing it out to.
Yes.
That's number one.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And just to emphasize, I mean, that's the successful part of it, is you have to understand that it is not, it doesn't mean because you're sourcing it and having an agency help you that there is no work on your part. I mean, there has to be a feeding of the system that goes on, the feeding of communication, that collaboration, that voice, the phone calls, whatever it is, to keep them abreast, because social media is about being current, relevant, timely. And so that, you need to have those. So I would say that the key work is there's ongoing, but there is especially important groundwork to be laid to begin with. And I know you guys do a heck of a job with that. Maybe, can you share maybe a little bit about that, if that's some of that groundwork you'd like to lay?
Absolutely. So before you get started with a partner in sourcing, you need to lay the foundation, like you said, and understand each other quite a bit. So you need to understand who's holding what roles. So if it is in-house, they are going to be responsible, let's say, for the calendar and keeping you up to date with all the events that are happening, maybe birthdays of team members and anniversaries, that kind of thing. You need to first outline who is responsible for what all needs to be done on social, what all is going to be included in your social media management and your package per se, and who's going to do what responsibility. So what we do here in our marketing group when we start working with a client, we first start with a discovery questionnaire, because you have to understand each other and what goals that you're looking to achieve and what your measurement is of success. Is your measurement of success filling out a contact us? Is it growing your email list? Are you looking at success as number of likes or engagement? What is your number that you're looking for as a measurement of success, and making sure both parties are clear on that, so you're both working toward the same common goal. Knowing what's going to be, like I said, in your package, and who's going to take on what responsibility. And then from there, you need to outline who all you're going to need to loop in and how often you're going to need to have a communication channel open, what that's going to look like. Because some agencies, like we do text messaging, Facebook messaging, phone calls all the time, but not all companies are like that. They may only say, we have a weekly meeting, or you contact us only through this channel, and that's it. And most recently, we actually started working with a client that had hired a company like that. And that was kind of his frustration, is not understanding that he didn't have a direct link to the person that was actively managing his channel. He had to fill out like this, this form in order to get in contact with them. And for him, that was kind of frustrating. He wanted to just have somebody that could, chit chat with about his project and be really actively engaged with. So you have to make sure that you understand what those parameters are before you even get started. And then we said the responsibilities, but also how often you're going to get reports and information back in order to measure your ROI. And, understand and make sure you ask a lot of questions before you sign on that dotted line. Because in this person's case that I'm using as an example, he ended up having to pay an end of contract fee, and he actually lost out on some of the domains that he had with his company because, he hadn't asked the right questions, and they said, no, you only get your domain if you've been with us for a year. So lots and lots of questions up front. It's really exciting to start working with an agency, and the agency's going to be just as excited with getting getting a new client, but make sure you ask each other a lot of questions to make sure it's going to be a good long-term fit to meet your needs.
Yep. Yep.
Um, we
So
have a list of questions on our website, actually, and I'll post a link in there as you
definitely post that one
conversate.
up there. I think that's the kind of information we need. Some of the people can
Mm-hmm.
review afterwards. But I think that's probably when you take a look at mistakes that are often made.
Yeah.
I think it's hiring too fast, not asking good questions, and hiring just for low cost. I mean, you can find people that
Yeah.
say they know social media and know how to post
Mm-hmm.
on Twitter or Facebook, but that doesn't mean that they can do that well, that they're steeped in the industry and that they're keeping up with the latest trends. I mean, they could be
Mm-hmm.
a year behind on methods they're using, and that's not going to serve you well. That's not going to bring the results that you need.
Yes, amen to that. Yeah. And I actually Mitch Joel, when we were at Social Media Marketing World and we were talking about, how to grow a successful agency, right? And they were talking about this, like how do you know to choose, how do you choose someone? And he laid out a good quote or a thought process, if you will. He said, make sure you're boxing in your weight class. So, if he used the example of startups wanting to hire the best because they got this new product out, this, the latest, greatest thing. So they want to hire the biggest, baddest agency there is, right? To market their product, but they're not there yet. So it can work both ways. Make sure that you work with an agency that kind of, if you're sourcing or whomever you're sourcing, that boxes in your weight class, that they can actively support you and are familiar with your type of brand and service, and maybe has some track record of success that they could show you. So maybe you don't need to go for the largest agency because maybe it's a little too much for you. Maybe you're not ready there. But on the same token, not the lowest price either, like you had made mention, because this may be someone that, isn't prepared for you or isn't going to keep you ahead of the curve. You're really paying and sourcing your content for multiple things. One, it's the time that you're going to gain back. Two, it's the growth and the potential that it can bring you. But third, it's for their knowledge. Their role and their goal is to keep you ahead of the curve and in the know with all things that is happening in marketing that can impact your business. They're going to those trainings. They're staying, on top of these things, or should be, in order to make sure that your brand stays on top of those. So make sure you know the qualities that these social media managers should have, and look at their track record for success.
Yep.
Before you hire them.
I liked it. What was the term that Mitch Joel used there? In your
So box in your weight class.
box in your weight class. That's good.
Class. I loved that. And that continues to stick in my mind. I mean, we've had to turn some clients away. Actually, we sent them over to you for a web app, that they contacted us. They needed a website application, and it was an awesome client that we would have definitely loved to have in our portfolio. But I knew that's not something that is in our wheelhouse. This is not something we would be trying to, you don't want to pay them to learn on the job, to try to do something. So you have to sometimes, say, no, this isn't for me, but I know somebody that could perfectly solve your needs. And now that company is referring other people to us because they know that we're, entering that relationship with integrity, and honesty.
Yep. And I think that, boxing your weight class also applies to the fact that, a 19, 20, 21-year-old is not going to be able to handle necessarily the more advanced B2B social media, type things there. So,
Exactly.
So that's an important thing too. I mean, they have to be able to comprehend the business model, comprehend the business product, services, and customer needs, and to be able to reflect back in an appropriate way, appropriate language for that culture, that client.
Exactly. And I would even take that a step further and say that it's really not one person. I mean, there's a couple really awesome rock stars that do have all of the tools that you need to actively rock out social media in their wheelhouse. but it's very uncommon. That's like saying, it's an artist is also an accountant, which is also, a creative writer. I mean, you don't always have those same skills in one person. You really do need a team of individuals that can handle different skill sets. There may be one person that is amazing at Facebook ads, the other person that really knows how to do the creative and the art, and the other person that's really great at doing social media management, and another person that is great at web. It's not saying you have to hire a multitude of different people. That's actually a client, another client that we just worked with or started working with 2 weeks ago. He had that same situation. He first hired the one person, realized that while that person was trying to train on the job, that wasn't his skill set, ended up hiring another person to do that one particular thing, and then ended up needing to hire another person for video to do that. And before you know it, he has all these parties that he's spending a lot of his time kind of being the project manager of, trying to get them to kind of communicate together, and ended up spending more money than he would have if he would have just hired an agency that has all that within their office and their capabilities right there.
Yep. Yep. No, I liked what you said there about just the different skill sets that are involved, because, social media does involve, I mean, there's that writing but there's the imagery and the media that goes onto it. And those can be, two very distinct and different things, and a, much broader skill set. So very critical to take a look at that. And I think that, one thing we didn't necessarily cover was kind of on the flip side, once you've done the vetting and you've laid some of that groundwork with the firm, the agency that's going to work with you, collaborate with you, partner with you on your social media, then there also needs to be kind of that trust level involved as well, that allow them to do what they do well. I mean, your business has a expertise. You're an expert in your product. That doesn't mean you're an expert in the social media of your product. And so there is a trust factor there as well. Now, if it's been done right, you should feel confident in that agency. And but then you got to let them do their thing, so to speak. I know that now Marketing Group is going to perform best when they're allowed to dance for other companies the way they can dance, as that company, but in the way that they know how. Yeah, that's right. On social media,
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I'm glad you bring that up, because, there's times where it's nerve-wracking. I get it. And, as you're first getting started on social, we had another insurance client that was brand new, getting started in social. He was like, I feel like we're posting too much, because they're actively, on top of everything that's being seen on Facebook, because it's new to them. They're like, okay, what's going out, watching it, monitoring it, which is great. But they're like, I think we need to cut it back, 2 times a week max. And I'm like, no, and I was explaining this that you're seeing everything because you're actively going there, but chances of your client actually seeing, or potential clients actually seeing everything that we're putting out is not common. And explaining kind of why we're doing the things that we're doing. Why are we sharing other people's content on the social media page? Why are we not referring everybody back to their website and every post? Why are we incorporating different video and different messaging on different channels? Because you have to trust the person you're hiring. You're not going to stand over the person fixing your car and tell them how to tune it up, right? So yeah, let them, like you said, dance how they know how to dance.
Yes. Yep.
I love that. One other thing we need to touch on too is make sure that the company that you hire, we talked about showing their case studies, but if a person really does believe in what they're doing, they're going to be doing it for themselves. In the age of social media, it seems like as soon as someone knows how to set up a Facebook page, they are a social media guru, and they are putting it out there and saying, that they can handle it all. And so just make sure, ask multiple different people, ask the customers that they're working with, but also look at what they're doing for themselves. If you truly believe what you say that works, you will be doing it for yourself. If this business doesn't have a social media presence, or they haven't, you know, posted in 3 years, chances are they're not taking it as serious as, you know, a person that really does specialize in that. They have to, you know, drink their own Kool-Aid, so to speak. So be
Absolutely.
wary of that.
Absolutely. Yes. Yep. No, I think that's highly important. And I was just trying to, I had a point, and then you got me stuck on the
Sorry.
Kool-Aid, and I lost it with the Kool-Aid there. But
Kool-Aid get you every time.
where was it? Where was it? It's coming back.
Yeah.
I don't know. Keep going. It'll come back to me here.
No, that's fine. That's good. But regular check-ins too, like you had mentioned, you know, the conversation ongoing. It's really good to have regular check-ins with the person that is managing your account to also review, you know, your return on investment, your insight reports. Make sure that if you're hiring someone, by reviewing things together, you'll continuing I'll try that one more time. You're continuing to educate yourself on how it works, because the last thing you want to do is feel uninformed on what's happening.
Yeah.
And some companies try to use big fancy words and big fancy spreadsheets and confuse the people that they're working with, because they feel like they can talk around or talk over. Ask a lot of questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions, and really have those regular check-ins, and make sure that you understand and can validate what's being shown to you. Of course, the trust, you know, you're going to build trust and hopefully a really long-term relationship with whomever you hire, but it's really good to stay informed. We had
Yep.
another example of a client, and unfortunately it happens way too often in our industry, that some people get burnt because they just don't understand it. And it's so frustrating. We had a client that was paying a good chunk of money each month to have this company manage their social page, right? And they weren't staying informed on what was actually being done. This company posted like 4 times for them in 2 months, and the posts were generic content and had the other company's name on it. I mean, it was a mess. So make sure you do stay informed on what's happening, so you can make an educated decision on
Yeah.
whether it's going to be a good relationship moving forward.
I mean, I think that at least there should be some type of monthly reporting at a minimum. Okay, and on that
Right.
Monthly reporting, that there should be understandable insights. You know, things that you can review that make sense in that regard.
Exactly. And
Yep.
keep access to your own accounts. Make sure you have access to your own accounts where you can get in there anytime you need to. You know, these, at the end of the day, they're still your accounts. So you need to make sure that you have full access controls. The
Right.
only thing to note on that is if you do have admin privileges and you're liking your post, please switch it to your own name before you like it. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
A client like it as himself, but definitely make sure you remain still connected to all of your profiles, so you can easily go in there and check it when you want.
Yep. So I thought of what I was going to talk about before. Okay, and that is, we've had this scenario where someone wants to contract us for 3 months. Okay, and then at the end of the 3 months, they feel like they will have been trained. Okay,
No.
So there's this process, and they want to see that, and again, that comes back through that whole journey of we are immersed in this. We stay with this. We can't say that you're going to be able to pick this up and that's it. Then you're going to be done, because the things are changing while we are speaking. They are evolving and adapting. And are you ready to keep up with that? Are you ready to shift with that? So that's one of those keys as well, is that unless your business is ready to dive in fully and hire someone that is qualified, who's going to have to stay up. I mean, you're not on a part-time basis going to be able to watch and then do it, because it's going to change from there.
Exactly. That is a really, a really good point. We've had clients like that. Like now we know what you're doing. You just write the 30 days of post, you schedule it out, and you casually interact. That's all
Yep.
well and good. But do is video working, is social, is the types of content that you're putting out working? Our role is to stay as an agency, or whomever's sourcing and producing your social media management's role is to stay on top. This was something that was brought up at the Brian Tracy conference as well that I just attended in Dallas. And they said, people are not paying just for your time and your service. The most value that you're providing is the knowledge that you have up here. You've taken years and lots of hours and ton of time to learn the things that you've learned, and to know how to perform the tasks that you need to perform. And that's what someone's paying for, because that is that is worth its weight in gold right there. It's everything that you're studying. I know you're like us. I mean, weekly you are taking a course online, or listening to podcasts, you are reading up on blogs. I mean, you are staying in touch with what's happening, and that's what it takes. That is what it takes. The flip side of that too, when you're talking about learning and seeing if you could take it over, you also have to be all in with this, though. If you're a company and you are sourcing out your social media, you can't just say, we're going to try it for a month, but this month I'm going to cut that budget and then put it over here because I've already got it going really good. I'm just going to take a break and then jump back in. It needs to be an ongoing thing where you're all in when you start going on social media, or else wait until you are ready to do it.
Right. Preach it. Yeah. Yeah. Two quick examples then, or at least one here, and I'm thinking about it. So had someone come to me, and so they had multiple restaurants, different locations across the U.S. And in one of the locations, there was something kind of going on in the community right around them, and it was kind of a controversial topic, that type of thing. And lo and behold, they had one of their older teenage waitresses doing the social media posting, and kind of posted a post that was less than sensitive to the discussion going on in the community, around that, and whoosh, just blew up just like that.
Oh no!
So again, that was that example of this. She's young and uses social media, and so she should be able to do this. And not taking care of your brand, what's happening there, wasn't boxing in the weight level, kind of, so to speak. There,
Exactly, because you need to be trained on what to do and not to do on social media. And we actually have a video on that. I'll post a link with some other people to give some tips on things to do and not do on social in 2016. I have another story very similar to this. Make sure if you're working with your social media team that you're going to source your services to, and make sure that they're keeping everything in your tone of voice online, and putting out the real-time happenings, that you give them a pre-heads up to anything that could be coming that they're going to need to be aware of. We had one situation where a client that we were working with, they decided that they were going to put in this new dress code policy, right? And they posted it on their door, and it was a pretty strict dress code policy. And it was a restaurant/bar where a lot of people were very offended, but we didn't find out until, literally social media blew up. It was were the pictures of this dress code. And we're like, oh my goodness, we're calling this owner and trying to find out what was happening. So make sure you give them the heads up before you're going to do anything out there.
Wow. Yes, absolutely. You don't want to be blindsided. Yeah, that's that whole collaboration piece.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's a worst case scenario. Yeah, when you're blindsided by someone, then you have to deal with that. But which kind of points to the fact of, as well, part of that foundation laying, part of the communication collaboration needs to be a crisis type policy. Okay.
Exactly.
What are we going to do? What's the general principles that the agency is going to follow, and to make you aware of that, and to best practices, because there can be, again, some businesses that say, oh, delete the post, delete the comments, and you can't do
Yep.
that, and so that has to be worked out ahead of time. This is how we handle it. This is how we do it.
Exactly. Yes. So, so true.
Yeah.
I'm going to post this link in here too. This link that I just put in here are just as since we started talking about that a little bit today. It is the do's and don'ts for social media in 2016. Just so you are aware of some of those. It's kind of cool. We brought in 20 social media rock stars and had them give their quick tip in 30 seconds or less for this video. Mike gave a great tip. He really lit it up, let's just say, the video. You don't know what I mean if you watch the video. He ignited it. So very, very cool.
Yeah, no, I think, kind of recapping a little bit here, but those
Sure.
the keys are that social media is just an important marketing tool online today. Just because we don't have time to go into all the statistics, but the stats of time spent per user, the time spent on Facebook, on 40 minutes a day. We're eating into television time, and we're all, what is it, 4 out of every 10 internet minutes is spent on Facebook, something in that.
It was 8 out of 10. Yeah, 8 out of 10. Facebook and Instagram. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's just become a piece of that, and you really need to learn how your business can participate with that. But likely you're going to need some assistance, and unless you're really hiring someone that has experience, you want to take a look at that, and you need to figure out what that handshake's going to be. You got to be committed to it, and you should be able to see some. What are the measurements that you want to look at? Is it traffic to the website? Is it some engagement response times, or those types of pieces? So that's
case studies.
Yeah.
Make sure you see case studies, or at least great examples of who this company has managed, and can give you as an example of their success and what their style is like.
Yep. Boxing your weight class. I love that. You need to hire someone that can really understand and participate as your business would participate, that has that maturity level, that understanding, that professionalism that is relevant there. And I think that businesses also need to understand, to be successful, the agency they're talking with is going to be talking about how this is always changing, this is always moving, and the need to keep up with that. I think that's critical.
Exactly. Yep. And that some of their time is going to be allocated to training and to staying, on top of these things. So don't be afraid to be agile either. If you're getting started on one thing, and that's in your company that you're working with, you built a good relationship with them, and they come back and say, hey, Google Plus is not producing the way that we think it's going to. We need to do now Instagram, or do this kind of campaign. Make it a fluid relationship with them, where you can be able to advance and change and grow according to what's working. Don't do it all the time, because you definitely want to give something a good measurement of time and investment into it to test the waters. But if something's not working, change it. And
you're going to have to over time. Yeah, because if you're still doing the same thing, that's probably not going to be working, because things change.
Exactly. So again, I'm going to post a couple links on these questions and qualities of a social media account manager. And I'm just going to read a couple of these real quick, if you don't mind. These are qualities of a successful social media account manager. So if you're looking for someone to source content to, or source your social media management to, these are some of the skills that they should have in place. They believe in the company's, your mission, and take time to understand your why. They know your personas and what their pain points are. You should be able to ask them at any time, who are we really trying to target, and what problem are we trying to solve? They should be able to answer that on the fly. They write creative and engaging content that adds value. They never allow you to auto-publish Facebook to Twitter. They research what's trending online and how to integrate it into the mix of your content. They do not overuse hashtags because it's annoying and don't help. They don't they build relationships with your ideal audience and engage with current, past, and future customers. They add personality to their post in your post. They don't overly promote or under interact. They don't ignore or delete negative feedback. They shorten links and keep your posts clean. They're consistent. They create lists on Twitter and interest lists on Facebook. They don't auto reply on Twitter and auto DM. They don't add people to Facebook groups without their permission. They don't. They know that iPhones can take the photos and videos you need to help your brand stand out. They find brand influencers online and build alliances. And there's about 30 more on here that I'm just going to post the link on that you can look and read what those qualities are. So you make sure that you've hired the right people to manage your brand online. And then here's the questions to ask before you hire someone. So when you get to that hiring point, you need to make sure you're asking, what makes them an expert in what they do? How do you know what it takes to manage your account? How often will you post online in different platforms, and who writes your content? How is the relationship split up? How do you maintain your social media account and content schedule? And is there a contract? Make sure you find out if there's a contract. And we talked about a few other of these, how to measure success, what social media tools that they're using and that they have access to. And I'm going to put the list of the rest of them here as well, because there's about 30 different questions you can choose from. But ask a lot of questions. Like we said, don't rush into it. It should be a long-term relationship. Interview a few different agencies and find the one that feels right for your brand and in your weight class, as we said.
Yes.
What questions do you guys have? If you have questions, feel free to post them in the live chat section here. We want to know from you, are you thinking of sourcing your social media content? Have you went through this experience before and have any words of advice for those that are maybe watching that are going through this process or thinking about starting this process? Make sure to give us your feedback in this live chat section here. So, Mike, have you had a really strong relationship with a client after they've sourced it, and kind of what sets that person apart from, anyone else, like the clients that you work best with? What are some of the qualities of that strong relationship, would you say?
Yeah. Well, I think you've just been able to develop a trust and a smooth communication, the kind of thing where you work closely enough with them that you're good with being Facebook friends with them, that type of thing, so that they can message you something, they can, you can operate quickly. Like some of the best ones, I'm operating via Facebook Messenger or text message, it's just, we've kind of gotten to that level. That's, you don't do that on those where it's a little bit less of a in-depth relationship. So the best ones are where you kind of get to that, just because those are the fastest, simplest means and modes of communication, where you can handle stuff. They're able to handle stuff on the fly too. So they're smartphone friendly, type thing. Not that they're posting, they're still trusting you for that, but they're willing to communicate, off hours via a quick text message. It's 9:30 at night. It's not a problem to have a quick, text message exchange and your team's moving.
That's really good. Yeah. And those are good qualities of the accounts that we work with too. Another one, actually, I'm going to quote Mitch Stoll again today. But one thing that he said is that if something goes wrong, that you're in it together. Let's say something didn't publish on time, or there was a misspelling, or there was the wrong date put out. But if you know that you're working with someone as a collaborative approach, that no one's perfect, one, but two, that you're in it together. And he used the example and said, if once the finger starts getting pointed, that you've already lost kind of that's the deterioration of that relationship, because really you're working as an extension of that brand. And that, you're in it together mentality is how you know that it's successful relationship ongoing. Okay, I'm going to read the comment over here. When evaluating a potential vendor, monitor a few of the accounts that they manage and see if you like their style and consistency of content. Exactly. Yes.
Yep.
Definitely. Monitor.
That's a good point, Dan. You just need to do that. You need to ask him, and particularly it's helpful if you can see a couple of those within different industries. That way you can see if their team is able to adapt and to work within different ones, or is it too much the same? So you want to ideally look at a couple things that they're doing over a couple different industries.
And honestly, a few of our clients that we have a long-term relationship with, they actually called those clients. They asked permission to call the clients and ask them what their relationship was like with us. And if you think about it, you're hiring someone almost as an extension of your business. So it's just like if you were to hire a new employee, you're going to call and reference check, right? So that is a smart move on their part. It's calling and asking the question, what is it like? What's the thing that you like best about them? What's the challenges? What is it like? And would you recommend for my business X that I would have a good relationship working with them too? Yeah. All right.
Very good. Very good. This has been some good stuff here. I think we've kind of outlined a number of key points. So someone going away from here and with those things that you've got in the notes there should know what questions to ask, what things to look for, what's going to be expected of them as, from the company standpoint, trying to source the social so that they know that they just can't write it off, but they have to be actively committed to communicating and keeping the company up to date, who's handling social for them, and just that collaboration, trust that needs to take place there.
Exactly.
You come back to both of us are Midwesterners here, so we get into that manufacturing realm. But I mean, this is that trusted vendor relationship, so that
Exactly.
you think about that in manufacturing, where the vendor is making some part that goes into your product, and you've worked together on this so that part is refined and it's a smooth fit, and what the delivery is and all those kind of pieces. That's what we're talking about with social. This is the new relationship there that needs to take place in that marketing realm.
That's a really good way to put it. Yeah, I like that. It's easy to understand that way too. All right, I'm going to post a link here. Mike, if you could post while I'm talking about next week, if you could share your contact information in the chat panel so people know where to contact you should they start that process and have some questions on sourcing their social media content. So next week, everyone, we will be back here for Magnet Marketers, how to become a magnet with your marketing versus being a bullhorn, talking about productivity and the keys to managing your time and productivity so you can work smarter, not harder. I actually come back from a 3-day weekend that was all focused on this, and they had some very actionable tips that I started putting to use as soon as I got back to the office, and I'm already seeing the results. So I'd love to share some of those secrets with you. I'm going to post the link here for you to subscribe for next week, and I would love to share that with you so you can have more time in your work week and life. I'm going to post my contact information here, and I so much appreciate everyone being here today and sharing this time with us.
Very good.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great remainder to your week. And remember, become a magnet, not a bullhorn with your marketing. Thanks, Mike.
All right. Take care.
Just in time. All right. See ya. Bye-bye.